All right, welcome back. As always, we have one of my favorite people, Miss Debbie Cox-DeNova, and she is in the studio. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
All right, so when you handed me this, by the way, you're a transformation coach. I do want to tell the audience that. All right. So, increasing personal magnetism and charisma.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear this one. It's going to be good.
It's fascinating.
You always come up with great topics.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so how does Martin False increase personal magnetism and charisma?
Right. So first, let's start by defining what charisma actually is. So this is basically, and it's a symbolic experience that is to influence people that's rooted in values and emotions. It's really hard to measure, but it's that je ne sais quoi, that I don't know what that someone has that kind of draws you in. In fact, it does two things very powerfully. It gives people good feelings, which is why charismatic people tend to have more people following them and wanting to do whatever it is that they ask them to do because they fill them up with good feelings, but also they give a little bit of an awestruck feeling. There's an awestruck effect that also happens that actually has us kind of get cognitively scrambled a little bit, and we'll actually follow charismatic people without understanding why, because there's a magnetism about them. So all of this started with the psychologist John Antonakis, who found a study that was published, a Princeton study that was published in the Journal of Science. And this study found that naive subjects were able to pick the winners of congressional elections based simply on two faces, the face of the winner and the runner-up. So just looking at the faces, they were able to pick pretty accurately who actually won the election. So John Antonakis saw this study and he wanted to know, was this just an American thing? Could he reproduce the results? And so he did. He did a French study with French elections, same results. Then he wanted to know, is this just adults or can children also pick the winners? And of course, children know nothing about politics. So he took children and he asked them to pick the boat captain. So he took the French elections, the pictures of the winners and the runners up, and he said, pick the boat captain. And he found that the children were just as accurate as the adults in picking the winners, about 85% on average. So he got a lot of attention for these studies. But behind the scenes, he was left feeling like, what am I supposed to teach, right? The reality is that we all have this tag around our necks. People size us up. If we look like $1 million, and they assign all sorts of good values and attributes to us, whether we are deserving of it or not. And if we don't, then we have a problem. So what he wanted to know, he wanted to go on a mission to find out, can we increase the value of our tag, even though, no matter what we look like? And what he found was charisma is the key to that. Okay, and now Vanessa Van Edwards says charisma is this perfect blend between competence and warmth. Competence and warmth. If you are competent, very competent, but not warm, people will respect what you have to say about something, but they're not going to like you. If you're too warm and you don't have enough confidence, people are going to like you, but they're probably not going to take what you say very seriously. They might talk over you. But when you have this blend, then you have this perfect thing that draws people in. Olivia Fox-Cabana wrote a book called the Charisma Myth, and she says that it's built of three skills: power, presence, and warmth. So again, what cues are you giving for power? And we talked about a lot of them, those confidence cues, open body language. We're built to sort of assess people and how they show up. Whether you have presence is about focus, 100% focus. So you're not looking off, being distracted by other people or your phone. You're 100% rooted and grounded when you're there. And then, of course, warmth is that ability to connect and make people feel good.
When I think back at my coaches, and some of the ones that had the most charisma and the most magnetism were my toughest coaches.
Yeah.
The easy coaches, they didn't exude confidence. The tough coaches did.
Interesting.
And I respected them more.
Yeah, exactly. And we do. We respect more and we follow more. Again, even though studies actually show that when we're listening to a charismatic leader, we actually absorb less information. This is the truth. We think we're absorbing more. We're in this awestruck state of like, oh, that was such a great speech. And we think we've absorbed all this information. But what they found is that we actually absorb more information when someone's not charismatic, but we are more likely to follow the charismatic leader with the belief that we've absorbed more information from them.
That's where Ronald Reagan captivated everyone.
Yes.
When he got up and spoke, I don't care if you were a Democrat or a Republican, you went. If you were a Democrat, you went, oh, or he's got it. If you're a Republican, you went, yeah, he's got it.
Exactly.
But he had it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And again, it's that, but it's a skill. And this is what's really important for everyone to remember is that it's not that some people have it and some people don't. It's a skill that you can actually build within yourself. There are tactics or strategies that scientists have shown are actually working. They actually took EMBA students and they had them give speeches. And then they took some judges who didn't know anything about anything and they judged whether or not they were good quality leaders. Then they taught them the tactics for charisma and they were able to double the use of these tactics in their speech. And what they found is that the more tactics that were used in the speech, the more they were rated as competent leaders, someone who is worthy of trust, respect, and being followed.
But I find sometimes either you have it or you don't.
Well, you would think so, but these are skills you can actually build, and science
can
has
work on
shown
it.
You definitely can
Like
work
practice
on
in
it.
a speech.
Yes, most definitely. There's also another study that they did where they took 106 workers to come in and manage postal mail for a charity, right? And they basically wanted to see if these people would be motivated by money, charisma, both. What would motivate them? So I took them to 3 groups. The first group were offered a bonus, and well,
I tell you about my coaches. That's how I normally reference things. The ones who were tough, never let you quit. Sometimes you hated them at practice, but you're going, they're bringing me down the right road.
yeah,
And they knew what they were doing. So when they were teaching you, if you're a leader who knows what you're teaching,
yes,
they'll follow. Now, if you're a leader and you're sort of making it up as you go, they're going to catch on.
yeah, absolutely.
But
And
you're saying if you mix a little warmth in there, it's like stirring the tang back in the day
yeah,
to make orange juice, it works.
it works, and also it's more about the delivery of so if you would know what you're talking about, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to come up across as charismatic. It's what you believe on the inside, your relationship to yourself, right? This is the biggest thing that gets in the way when it comes to charisma. People feeling anxious and stressed out. But if you have a belief in yourself, have confidence in yourself, you know what you're talking about, your skills are in place, so you're competent at what you're doing, then you deliver that power and that presence through your body language, through your voice and the tone that you use, the way that you speak, and you have presence, right? Presence and power, and then you mix it with warmth. Now you're coming across as charismatic, and you're filling people up with good feelings. And those good feelings are what make people not only want to follow you and respect you, but will defend you as well. We see this all the time with politicians. No matter what they say or what they do, it's like, if you're providing me those warm feelings inside and I trust and believe in what you have to say, then I will defend you as well.
Or good vibes,
Or good
which is why we call the show Good Vibes.
Exactly.
You were getting to a point before we went to the first break, and I'm going to let you regress a little bit.
Sure.
Was it 3 points you were making?
There was a study that was done on 106 workers. They brought them in to manage postal mail for a charity, a foundation, to raise money. And they wanted to see if they would be motivated by charisma. So the first group was actually offered no bonus, and they were given a standard speech by an average-looking person. Okay. Second group were offered a bonus and also given the same speech. The third group was offered no bonus and given a charismatic motivational speech. And what they found is that the people were both motivated by the bonus and also the charismatic motivational speak. And the statistical difference was indistinguishable between those two. So what they found is that performance increased with no extra money, just with the charismatic speech that was given to them. People are highly motivated to work when charisma is involved, when their leader has charisma.
And here's the thought, because some people, I'm sort of task oriented. I don't need someone to motivate me to go do my job.
Yeah.
So I don't need a rah-rah person to get me to do my job.
Right.
Some people need that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's important to note that it's just about being an influential person. And whether we're talking about at work or in relationships, And it's also important to know the cues of charisma, because it's not always that charismatic people are good or right. So, and it's important to know that our mind gets scrambled when we're under the influence or the magnetism of someone who has charisma. And we need to really put what they're saying up to the raw light of truth before we follow, before we believe, right? So it's kind of on both sides, learning how to be more charismatic so that you can be influential and magnetic in the world, but also understanding that these are key tactics that people can use to influence people, and making sure that you're not easily influenced just because somebody is using these tactics.
The most charismatic preachers have the biggest audiences and following.
Correct. Yes.
It's evident, and they grow.
It's across everything, really. Corporate, they've done studies for corporate politics, and it's everywhere.
And charisma can be a higher tone speech, or it could be like Billy Graham. When we'd sit down and watch, we were a Catholic family watching Billy Graham, but everybody in the living room would go, "Wow, that guy's got it together."
Yeah.
Never screamed, never rah-rahed, but his delivery.
Yeah, and you just assume all kinds of great things about him because of the way that he presents himself as a charismatic leader, and that is how we are. So this actually even translates, though, to the microblogosphere, so Twitter, where there's a 140-character limit.
Say that again?
The microblogosphere. So Twitter, right? It has 140 characters, and then you're reading. You're not actually face-to-face. But what they found is that when these tactics were employed, they actually did a study with 30 CEOs and 30 politicians over a 3-month period of time. And they looked at 3,000 tweets. And what they found is that the more of these tactics that were used in their communications, the more they were retweeted. So if you went from 0 to 4 tactics in general, you would have a 450% increase in retweets. So it's even in the microblogosphere that this actually works.
Microblogosphere. Wait, let me write that down, because it's a new word.
Yes.
Is that a new word that just surfaced? Microblogosphere?
I really don't know. I didn't come up with it, if you're asking that.
Microblogosphere. Okay, I'm add it to my vocabulary. But I guess the bottom line is, for the audience, you can learn how to have more charisma.
Yes. So the first thing you want to do is frame things up, give a vision, paint a picture of what's to come, right? The second thing you want to do is that you want to provide substance for your justification. You can pull the audience, and basically cognitively connect people to the substance for your justification. And the third is you want to deliver it in an animated and passionate way. And if you have those 3 things, then you will increase your charisma.
And I've learned most every successful person has some of what you just talked about.
Yes, absolutely.
Or else they wouldn't be there.
That's the truth.
All right, Debbie, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, we'll be back next time with some more good vibes. See you around the corner.